Introduction. Privilege escalation is a critical phase in ethical hacking and penetration testing, allowing hackers to elevate their permissions and gain access to more sensitive information and resources. This article explores the top 10 privilege escalation methods commonly employed by cybersecurity professionals to identify vulnerabilities and strengthen system security. Kernel exploits. Exploiting vulnerabilities within the operating system's kernel can grant attackers higher privileges. These vulnerabilities, often caused by unpatched software or misconfigurations, can allow malicious actors to execute arbitrary code and gain control over the system. Misconfigured services. Improperly configured services and applications might run with elevated privileges. By exploiting weak settings or permissions, attackers can abuse these services to escalate their privileges and potentially gain control over the system. Weak file permissions. Unsecure file permissions can provide an opportunity for privilege escalation. Attackers can manipulate file permissions to gain access to sensitive files or escalate their privileges by executing files with higher privileges. Cron jobs and scheduled tasks. Misconfigured cron jobs or scheduled tasks might execute with higher privileges. Identifying and manipulating these jobs can allow attackers to execute arbitrary commands as privileged users. Insecure defaults. Default configurations, passwords, and settings in software or systems can lead to privilege escalation. Attackers often exploit these out-of-the-box settings to gain unauthorized access. DLL hijacking. Dynamic link library, DLL, hijacking involves replacing a legitimate DLL with a malicious one. When an application loads the malicious DLL, it can execute code with elevated privileges. Sudo and SUID abuse. Improperly configured sudo permissions or set UID, SUID binaries can be exploited to escalate privileges. Attackers can manipulate these permissions to execute commands as other users or even root. Password attacks. Brute forcing passwords or exploiting weak credentials can lead to privilege escalation, especially if a compromised user has access to administrative privileges. Kernel modules. Attackers can load malicious kernel modules if the system allows loading unsigned modules. These modules can grant unauthorized access to sensitive parts of the system. Symlink attacks. Symbolic links, symlinks, can be abused to trick systems into performing unintended actions. Attackers can manipulate symlinks to access files or directories with higher privileges than they initially had. Conclusion. Privilege escalation is a critical aspect of ethical hacking and security testing, simulating real-world attacks to uncover vulnerabilities and reinforce system defenses. Understanding these top 10 privilege escalation methods is essential for cybersecurity professionals to effectively secure systems and networks against potential threats. Regular security assessments, patch management, and proper configuration are key to mitigating these risks and maintaining a robust security posture.